You've been able to speak to your son.
What did you say to him when you visited him in court? Is he doing...
Developing at 5, music mogul Sean Diddy Combs back inside a federal courtroom here in New York.
All right, a trial date's now been set for May 5th of next year. Lisa Evers live in Lower Manhattan with the very latest today. Lisa.
Well, Stephen, Natasha, this was Sean Diddy Combs' third time in the courthouse you see right behind me. His first time before a new judge. They did handle these calendar matters and also set that May 5th, 2025 date for the trial to begin. But what was most striking was that his mother, Janice Combs, who's been with him his whole life, flew up from Florida to be with him, as did most of his children, in a show of support. Sean Combs' son Christian, known professionally as King Combs, held his grandmother's hand as they left the courthouse with his other siblings.
We want to hear from you. Anything you want to say at this point.
Judge Arun Subramanian acknowledged that his mother Janice Combs came from Florida for her son and that his kids also traveled to be in the same courtroom with him. Combs' attorney Anthony Rico sat by his side throughout the proceeding. He's handling the appeal of his bail denial, which is a separate case in the appeals court.
He's making an adjustment. He had his family here today to support him. We really want to put an end to all of the clowning that we see on the internet. This is a serious proceeding with serious consequences.
The judge set a trial date of May 5th, 2025. The lead federal prosecutor took issue with Combs' attorney Mark Agnifillo's extensive comments in a TMZ documentary, alleging the government was guilty of racial bias and targeting Combs. Agnifillo complained about government leaks to the media. The result was a mutual gag order.
I made a request for the judge to issue what we call the gag order. And the judge is going to issue it on a reciprocal basis. So I'm not going to say anything that I didn't say in my papers and in court.
Women's rights attorney Gloria Allred represents some of the accusers of Combs in civil cases and spoke outside the court.
It's challenging because for many of them, remembering what they allege he did to them is triggering and traumatizing.
Diddy's arrest has set off a wave of speculation and discussion, with many wondering what will happen next. Let's break down the key events and talk about what these accusations mean for both Diddy and King Combs.
18th was set for the next status conference. For now, Combs is back at MDC. He's been denied bail twice. His last hope of getting out before that May 2025 trial date beginning is for the appeals court to reverse the bail denial, and that could happen anytime within the next couple of weeks. We're live here in front of the courthouse. Let's check in with Teresa Priolo. She's been outside most of the day here. Teresa, what was it like out here?
There were so many people out here, Lisa. As you know, you were out here as well. P. Diddy is an international superstar, and so you have to imagine that this is a case that is bringing people from all over the world. We've seen local media here, national media, and yes, international media too, with also a huge showing among entertainment journalists. But we also saw today a lot of citizen journalists that were out here as well. People who grew up on Diddy's music, whose albums were the soundtrack of their lives, and they just told me that they feel like they needed to come down here and to just catch a glimpse of it all. Of course, we know that Diddy remains behind bars at MDC, but that's not stopping the crowds or the interest in this case.
I'm studying forensic sciences, so, and my big thing is women and children, to protect women and children. So when I heard all of this going down, it was, just the hair on my back just went up.
If he's doing things like this, he needs to be in jail. There's nothing. Diddy needs to go to jail if this is what he's about.
So you might be wondering how the crowds that we saw out here today compared to other high-profile trials like Ghislaine Maxwell, maybe Harvey Weinstein, even Donald Trump. I can tell you, at least from what I saw out here today, this is nothing like what we saw with Donald Trump. But Lisa, I would imagine that as this trial gets closer to its date of May 5th, that we might be seeing some of the crowds like we saw with Ghislaine Maxwell, people lining up really early in the morning, getting their tickets, trying to get inside.
No, Teresa, definitely. This is very early in the whole process. I mean, they just set the trial date today of May 25th, and I think it's going to draw more and more more people as we go forward. In fact, the next court date here is December 18th. That will be for the next status conference. But there's a lot of other issues that they have to consider as well in terms of the evidence. The judge gave them until December 31st to deal with all the discovery of the evidence. That means both sides have to have the access to all of the evidence that they have, which is many dozens of terabytes from more than 90 telephones and electronic devices they confiscated during those raids. And then the other thing that was significant about today too, Teresa, was that the prosecutor said in no uncertain terms and quite emphatically, because everything else she was very even-tempered, she said, make no mistake about it, this investigation is still ongoing and we expect to have a superseding indictment, meaning more charges against Diddy. That's the latest here from federal court. Back to you in the studio.
At the heart of the legal storm is Grace Omar, a 25-year-old woman who filed a civil lawsuit against King accusing him of C***GLE assault.
Have you been able to speak to your son?
What did you say to him when you visited him in court? Is he doing well?
You guys have any comment going into court?
How's your father?
How's he doing?
How's your father?
Anything you want to say to the press while we're going inside?
No.
What do you want the girls to know about Diddy?
How's he doing?
How's your father doing right now?
Have you spoken to your father?
Any messages?
What do you want to say about your father? Christian, have you spoken to your father?
According to Omar K's claims, the incident happened while she was working on a yacht in 2022. This lawsuit, filed in April of this year, has brought immense attention to the Combs family, especially as new allegations against Diddy have come to light.
His legal troubles continue to mount. His mother is coming to his defense in what she calls the public lynching of her son. Janice Smalls Combs released a statement on Sunday through her attorney saying, quote, she's devastated and profoundly saddened by the allegations, but believes that her son deserves a chance to prove his innocence. The statement reads in part, quote, it is heartbreaking to see my son judged not for the truth, but for a narrative created out of lies, to bear witness what seems like a public lynching of my son before he's had the opportunity to prove his innocence is a pain too unbearable to put into words. His mother's statement goes on to say, quote, this injustice has been unbearable for our family. The worst part of this ordeal is watching my beloved son be stripped of his dignity, not for what he did, but for what people chose to believe about him. So now let's talk about whether Diddy's mom could be a factor that affects the outcome of his trial. Let's bring in our power panel. It is Ladies Morning today. Talk about beauty and brains on the program. Here we have it. Still with us, former homicide prosecutor Melba Pearson, domestic violence expert, former law enforcement officer Claudia King, and entertainment commentator Holland Reed. Okay, let's begin just talking about Mom. I think we all feel for his mom, right? Mom has nothing to do with any of these allegations, and reading these statements, you feel for her, don't you, right? And could she affect this case or what people think about the case? Holland Reed, I'd love to start with you, please, on the sentiment that the entertainment industry is feeling after hearing Mom speaking out.
I'm a mother. I have a 23-year-old grown man at home, and I love him dearly, and I would protect him at all costs. Unfortunately, this statement reads like a book of excuses for her son. She should have, I think, left this to the defense. This is so much bigger than the instinctive, intuitive nature of protecting your child. It's so much bigger than that. And her statement it seems to be cooperating with.
Just recently, Diddy, 54, was arrested in New York, further fueling the controversy. The arrest occurred on Monday, September 16th, and the following day, a 14-page indictment was made public.
Pathological liar and has been. Yes, we all make mistakes. Yes, we want to protect our children when they don't do the right thing or go down the wrong path. But I would also say, hey, Mom, maybe watch the video, look at the allegations and really read them through. This is not just a mom trying to protect her son. She's trying to honestly paint a new narrative, which I don't think is going to help him in the end.
Holland, appreciate that. Claudia King, let me go to you next, please. What do you think about Mom? Is Mom at all valuable to investigators here as any kind of witness? Do you think there's any need to talk to her? Curious your thoughts on that.
I think they'll probably talk to her, but I honestly don't think there's going to be a lot of value in that for the reasons that Holland just pointed out. You know, she's very clearly on the side of her son, which we cannot blame her for that. She's a mom. She's going to protect her child, but she's clearly swayed in her beliefs towards him. So they might talk to her just to check it off, you know, the list, but I don't think it will provide any evidentiary value for them.
Claudia, appreciate that. Melba, legally, is there anything you can see as we look ahead to the trial that Mom could perhaps become a part of here?
Well, certainly I expect that she will be present in trial each and every single day, sitting in the front row, likely with Diddy's kids and any other family members, just to, again, show that solidarity.
Just recently, Diddy, 54, was arrested in New York, further fueling the controversy. The arrest occurred on Monday, September 16th, and the following day, a 14-page indictment was made public.
I could see her giving maybe interviews trying to sway public opinion, but at the end of the day, I concur with what my two co-guests have said. You know, at the end of the day, look at the Cassie video. And if you weren't ashamed of your son after he beat a skinny, defenseless woman within an inch of his life, then she's living in willful ignorance. And, you know, she's not doing anything to help her son's case. Like Holland said, let the defense talk and stay out of it, because he's dead wrong and he's not getting out from under this.
That's a really great point, Mel, but the Cassie video, that was not addressed. You know, it was more about the public sentiment. She's convinced that people are convicting her son before even hearing the evidence in the case. I really appreciate that comment you just made about that video. There was nothing in regards to that from what we've seen. As for what's ahead for Diddy? Let's shift gears to that, because tomorrow he's going to be back in court, and there are new reports that there's a brand new judge who's going to be overseeing his case. So that could potentially mean another chance for a third request at bond. Remember, he's been before two different federal judges. Both of them denied him bond, both really on the same major grounds, that he could intimidate victims or witnesses, and they see him as a threat in that regard. So when he's due back in court tomorrow, let's talk a little bit about what we can expect. We don't have a trial date yet. What can we expect when he comes to court? Do you think we will see a request for a bond reduction or modification? Melba Pearson, let me go to you first on this, please. Legally, what do you think we're going to see?
Absolutely. I think the defense is going to try again to either reduce his bail or get some other conditions of release, maybe home confinement or something along those lines. I don't anticipate that it will be successful, again, based on the same arguments around intimidation, around safety to the community, around potentially being a flight risk but at the end of the day, he is well known and is very visible. So unless he gets plastic surgery, it's going to be kind of hard for him to disappear. But at the end of the day, the safety to the community, as well as the intimidation aspect, I think is going to, reign supreme.